Welcome everyone to another edition of Charlie Reviews. This is the second episode in this new format. So today I will be reviewing three books, which are all the new books that I got this week. Um, but before we do that, I will show you the back issue I got. Only one back issue this week, which is Season Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 8, Issue 21. So on to the new books. So first off, Ghost number 6. Uh, so this is pretty much the continuation, in part, of the story that started last issue. Pretty much this is the first round between in the battle between Ghost and the new villain Von Ghastly here. Uh, we also get his origin. We learn a little bit more about Alyssa Cameron, and there's like this villain, this other character that showed up last issue, one page I believe, who is this sort of bounty hunter that's been following Ghost to wherever she has shown up. Uh, so a lot of stuff happened here. One of the things I've been enjoying about this book and is that and I think most of the this book it it's that it's packed. A lot of stuff happens in each issue. I do get for my 299 I actually do get a lot more than I would get in some other mainstream books that just seem like stretched out. Here, a lot of stuff happens, you know, uh, and things are resolved or partially resolved, as is in the case of this issue. Uh, like I said, it's like the first round of her battle with him, Van Ghastly, who is, as it turns out, he's just a regular guy who got powers through magic. So he's able to defeat. He was able to defeat Ghost last issue, as it always happens. Uh, but in the end, it was sort of a draw. They didn't stop the Von Ghastly, so he will show up in future issues. And we learn a little bit more about the bounty hunter that's been showing up, which is this guy. Sort of has a really weird mask on. You know, him. Um, who turns out he's a bounty hunter that's been hired by an unknown party for whose target is unknown, and apparently they aren't all that interested in in Ghost herself, but something related to her. Um, so it's a great. So I really enjoyed this issue, and the thing I really like about the series, I mean, is the whole overarching theme of identity. Uh, the exploration of identity has been an integral part of the character since her creation in the 90s. The fact that, she died, Alyssa Cameron died, she came back as Ghost, but she doesn't really, but as a almost blank slate. She doesn't know who she was, but as she discovers, bits and pieces of her past life, she doesn't feel any connection to it. And and so it doesn't have any connection to it, and wonders if she's actually meant to be someone else, uh, or what she's supposed, or at at the same time trying to grasp a little bit of that past life as well. So you know, she isn't really sure of who she's supposed to be and what she's supposed to do. You know, so I always find that fascinating about the character. This whole exploration thing. Yes, it is becoming a bit more of a superhero title, but it still has a bit of that, a touch of that paranormal stuff that showed up, in the last series and at the beginning of this series uh, of the story. But yes, it does fall into the traditional superhero thing, where she fights crime, you know, petty criminals, like she did last issue, and she does at the end of this issue. But there still are the bigger villains as well. But it, like I said, the whole overall theme of identity is played throughout. Uh, in fact, she gets a sort of secret identity last issue based on who she was, and you know she doesn't feel that. She doesn't feel she can do what she did before, be a reporter. She just has this big disconnect. So I'm really loving the book because of this. It's a really well written book. It's a very smart book, a smartly written book, which makes it interesting because you have the whole superhero adventure thing, but then you have you know what makes the character interesting, the whole character arc for Elisa, Cameron, and Ghost. The whole character arc plays throughout as well. So loving it. Next up, Supergirl number 33, the last part of the Red Daughter of Krypton. Um, so basically, in this issue, Supergirl is fighting World Killer One, which turned out to be a sort of sentient, symbiotic um, armament, armor. That's the best way to describe it. Um, but this sentient um, thing has a very distorted view of the world because being from Krypton, being creating Krypton, the fact that Krypton was destroyed sort of gave this thing a sort of rap idea that destroying planets uh, would make the survivors stronger. So because of that, it sees Supergirl as a sort of kindred spirit because she's gone through crap since her arrival on Earth. She's gone through some very unpleasant experiences that pretty much led her to getting a red ring. Uh, but of course Supergirl doesn't see it that way. So in an attempt to to sort of make Supergirl see its way, World Killer One possesses a human because actually they land on in Rio de Janeiro. They land there, they arrive there pretty much fighting throughout the city. Supergirl, of course, tries her best to protect people. So once World Killer One takes over one human, that he pretty much burns out, and then jumps in another human. Supergirl agrees to let it bond, you know, so as long as it doesn't hurt the humans. But of course, uh, Supergirl is no dummy, so she knows that kryptonite in the atmosphere because of the events in Doom are weakening her. She thinks that a good way to defeat it is to sort of make it feel, it's her pain. So the World Killer One starts to take over Supergirl. Supergirl flies and goes to the heart of the ground zero of the kryptonite the bomb, which was actually Metallo or Metal Zero in Smallville. Uh, she flies through the kryptonite dust. Uh, the World Killer One feels the pain, uh, starts to leave Supergirl's body, and basically Supergirl relying on the red ring. She grabs World Killer One, and they go off to space all the way to the sun. So obviously, it seems that fighting it in space and near the sun doesn't really hurt the the symbiotic sentient suit. So she decides to come to do the ultimate sacrifice, and so she takes the red ring off. And as everyone knows, if somebody wearing the red ring takes it off, they die because the red ring replaces the heart. So she does that. Now she's sort of dying. You know, World Killer One tells her, well, you know, okay, you're useless to me, but I looked into your memories, so I know about your cousin. So, one Kryptonian is as good as the next. So, it throws her into the sun, and this is where it gets kind of like Silver Agey, sort of, unexplained. She falls into the sun. She's got jumped into the sun, and then she comes back out, alive and well in her old, in her regular, blue and red costume, and is able to defeat the World Killer One, uh, and then heads to help the survivors of the fleet that World Killer One was leading. Uh, she left them in the moon, I believe, and you know, and off she goes to make a better life for herself. Like I said, that sort of, she dies, but then she comes back to life. Well, part of it's explained because it's Earth's yellow sun, so that fuels Kryptonians, uh, and that sort of serves as a good explanation for that, except for the fact that did she lose her heart when she didn't she lose her heart when she wore the red ring? Something did happen at the same time in Ismalt, the planet where the Red Lanterns have their headquarters. So it seems to have been glossed over somewhat. It wasn't really all that well explained. That's probably the only part I put in this issue. It's great. That whole story is great. You know, Supergirl acts like a true hero. You know, and that's all I want for my Supergirl, to be heroic. The other part I put is the whole new 52 version of Gen 13 shows up, not in the story proper, but at the end in like a 2-page epilogue that I don't know was sort of put in there for no reason. Apparently, there's no real connection between the main story or anything at all. I don't know what the point was. Is this a preview of something coming up? It doesn't really say. That's the only problem I see in the issue. I mean, it's announced, right here in the cover, but nothing to do with the actual story. Finally, uh, um, and most people who have watched my other videos won't be surprised, is seeing this title, Teen Titans #1. Um, so, was it worth it? It's an okay issue. It's got potential. Uh, we don't know much of the direction this book is taking. This is a Dunning one. It's a good introductory issue. We every Titan gets their little moment, and they all get spotlighted. They all get their moment. They're basically just fighting a bunch of terrorists who took over a bus. Their leader, which we are told is female, though it's not that clear because the character is completely covered in black, so you really can't tell anything about it. But we are told it's a female. She sort of under this group of people. She's protesting some project in Star Labs that apparently nobody knows about. So they kidnapped this school bus you know, with a bunch of students who were, in a field trip. So nothing major, they're able to defeat the terrorists and save the kids. Uh, though there is more though, because the leader of this terrorist group isn't really there on the bus, and we do see her at the end. So of course, the story will continue, but there is a beginning and a middle and an end as to the main conflict of this issue. But it's basically just an introduction to, or a reintroduction to the team. So uh, it's okay. I mean, the art is just typical kind of Rockefeller art. So you hit all the weird angles and little panels and weird layouts and whatnot. Uh, the story was okay. Like I said, nothing major really. I do believe that it will pick up in in upcoming issues, but I actually really like that nature that it's a Dunning one. Um, there really isn't there is no glossing over. It's really focused uh, to what this issue is supposed to do, which is pretty much just introduce the characters. We do know that they are a team, so you don't really need much more than see each character in action and get an understanding of who they are and what their powers are. So any new reader coming on will know exactly who they are. Uh, for someone who's been reading the title, in its previous incarnation, basically knows them as well. So, but at the same time, doesn't really feel like it's repetitive. The story does move forward to its conclusion and its cliffhanger. Uh, but still, it's not very clear. So I could say it's got potential. Um, Nothing more else that I can say. Really, looking forward to the next issue and hope that it lives up to what's being promoted uh, online by writer Will Pfeiffer. Um, So uh, so that's it for this week of uh, Charlie reviews. There will be a new One Guy's Opinion coming up this weekend, I hope, or early next week, because there's always a lot of stuff to talk about in the comic world. Some interesting conversation that I've been having on Twitter that I think really need to be addressed in the you know much more widely. Uh, some stuff having to do with the announcement of a new female Thor, that Thor, even though you have Thor. So it's gonna be a very entertaining vlog that I'll be doing uh, this weekend. So check that out, and leave your comments. You know Agree or disagree in whatever I have to say. Right, tell me and leave your comments for this video as well. So in this rainy afternoon here in Mexico City, I will say until next time, keep smiling.